They always warned us, don't cross the mushroom ring, my grandmother used to say. The fair ones will take you. We all laughed. Of course, just old stories to keep kids out of the woods. But I was drunk and daring stupid. It was supposed to be a joke. Step past the ring, wave at the shadows, come back and laugh about it over cheap beer. But the moment my boot touched the mossy ground inside that Crimson Cape circle, the air changed. It was like stepping into another world. Everything got too quiet. No birds, no wind, just a strange hum under my skin. The music low, pulsing, like breath in my ear. The trees seemed taller, twisted, watching. I turned to leave, but the woods were gone. I stood in a clearing, bathed in moonlight that glowed lavender. The air was thick, sweet, wrong. Then I saw them. Fairies, or something that wore that name like a disguise. Women, but not. Too tall, too beautiful, too dangerous. Their skin shimmered like wet obsidian, wings stretched wide like veils of silk and smoke. They moved like dancers and hunters both. And they were smiling at me. Look what wandered into our court, one of them said. Her voice dripped honey and iron. She wore thorns and velvet like royalty. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I couldn't look away. I didn't mean to, I started. My voice cracked. Oh, we know, said another, circling me. She had a leather strap in one hand, trailing it across her palm. That's what makes it so delicious. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. Vines had wrapped around my ankles, warm, alive. My shirt unraveled in strands, vanishing like smoke. Cold air hit my skin, followed by their eyes. They liked looking. I should have been afraid. Maybe I was, but beneath that fear was something darker. Need. It pulsed in me, fed by their gaze. You wanted danger, the third one whispered, appearing behind me. Her breath was fire against my neck. She said, we are the danger. They took their time with me. Bound by vines that pulsed with magic, I became theirs. My body obeyed them, even when my mind begged for clarity. Every touch, every command, every cruel tease was wrapped in sorcery. My senses burned, pain and pleasure bled together. I gasped, moaned, begged, and they drank it in like nectar. One whispered filth in a language I couldn't understand, but felt. One bit me hard enough to bruise, then kissed and licked the wound. One ran her fingers through my hair, cooing good boy as I trembled beneath her. Time meant nothing. I don't know how long I was theirs. Hours, days. Then suddenly it ended. The golden-eyed one leaned over me, brushing sweat-matted hair from my face. She said, you can leave now, but you'll dream of us. You'll ache for us. She kissed me, slow, possessive, and then the world shattered. I woke up at the edge of the woods, naked, marked, shaking. The mushroom ring was behind me, untouched. The trees were silent. I told no one what happened, for who would believe me? marks didn't fade. They shimmered beneath my skin like embers alive. Even in the daylight, I could feel their bite. A phantom kiss on my throat, a hand gripping my wrist. And at night, I didn't sleep. I relived. I dreamt of them, tall and cruel, lips like sin, voices like spells. I'd wake up soaked in sweat and shame, hard and hollow, craving them like a drug I never meant to try. Something changed. One night, in the throes of a fever dream, I heard something new. Not their laughter, but a whisper. Not to me, but about me. And I realized I had a thread, a tether. They marked me, yes, but in doing so, they left something behind. A link. Magic. I started researching, hunting down old texts in dead languages, piecing together fragments of a fairy lore. Most of it was nonsense, charms and poetry, but deep in a forgotten volume bound in bark, I found something real. A summoning, but not one that begged, one that commanded. I gathered what I needed: blood, moonlight, silver nettle, and a whisper of their true names gleamed from the syllables they moaned in the dark. I stood at the mushroom ring, spoke the invocation, and waited. The air snapped, and there they were, the three of them, just as before, elegant, dangerous, smirking, until they weren't. They froze, confused. I saw it in their eyes. "You called us," the golden eye once said, her voice still sweet, but unsure. "No," I said. "I bound you." They laughed at first, but when they tried to step forward and couldn't, their faces changed. "You shouldn't have done this," the one with the whip snarled, wings fluttered with fury. I stepped closer, watching their perfect, impossible bodies twitch with frustrated power. "You broke me open. Now it's your turn." I took the same vines they once wrapped around my wrist, only now they obeyed me. They slithered toward the fairies, coiling around their limbs. They struggled, but the magic was mine now. I had learned what they didn't think I could, how to bend their own realm against them. They hissed, growled. One of them spat a curse in an old tongue. It burned across my skin, but I didn't falter. "You thought I'd crawl back," I whispered, stepping behind the golden-eyed one, running a fingertip down the curve of her spine. She trembled. "But I came to claim," I said. And claim I did. They still had their power, their allure, their otherworldly beauty. But I set the pace now. I pulled the strings. I forced them to feel what they made me feel. Helpless, trembling, craving release that only came at my whim. I bound them with their own thorns. I made them beg in voices that once only gave orders. I looked into their eyes and saw something they never felt before. Desire, not for domination, but to surrender. By the end of it, they were a tangle of wings and gasped and flushed skin. Their pride shattered and shining like glass on the forest floor. The golden-eyed one looked up at me, pupils blown wide, lips parted. "What are you becoming?" she whispered. I leaned in, brushing her beautiful hair from her face, voice low and certain. "Something even you can kneel to." She doesn't call me pet anymore. She now calls me lover, but with a hiss, like the word tastes strange on her tongue, as if she still doesn't know whether to worship me or tear me apart. And I don't know which one I want either. What started as revenge has rotted into something else, something thorned and beautiful and wrong. I see her every night, not because I summon her, but because she comes. She slips out of the veil between realms like smoke through a keyhole, standing at the foot of my bed, golden eyes glowing like molten honey. She never asked permission. Neither do I. We take turns pretending we're in control. Some nights, I have her moaning against the stone floor of the forest ruins, vines cinched tight around her thighs. Other nights, she has me gasping into the curve of her neck, her nails pressed just deep enough to draw blood. It's not a game. It's a cycle. A loop of pleasure and pain, power and surrender, spiraling tighter every time we meet. She's still dangerous. Gods, I feel it. Every kiss tastes like poison and prophecy, but I can't stay away. And she doesn't want me to. This isn't how it should be, she told me once, pressed against my chest, her breath hot against my neck. Mortals don't do this with us. We play with them. We discard them. I tilted her chin up and kissed her, slow and deep, until she melted into my arms. You didn't choose me, I whispered. You unleashed me. She didn't argue. We don't talk about love. That would make it too fragile. But there's something deeper here, darker. She marks me with her lips, her body, her cruel affection, and I mark her right back. The bruises we leave on each other don't fade. Neither do the whispers in the dark. We lie to ourselves and call it balance. We say we're equals now, but the truth? We're addicted to the control, to the chaos, to the ache that never quite goes away. I can't tell where I end and she begins anymore. Her magic is in me now, and maybe mine is in her too. Something is growing in the ruin we made of each other. Something blooming. A ruinous romance. A bound, forged in domination and fed by devotion. Twisted, raw, and honest in the only way monsters can be. She visits me again tonight. She's already in my bed before I open my eyes. Mine, she murmurs into the hollow of my throat, biting hard enough to draw blood. I grip her hips, pull her down to meet me. No, I say, voice hoarse, ours. And she smiles like a wolf in the moonlight. She doesn't haunt my bed alone anymore. The golden-eyed one still comes first. Always first. She still tastes like prophecy and poison, still rakes her nails down on my back like she's writing her name into my bones. But now she lingers after. Now she breathes slower beside me. Now she speaks in riddles about permanence. And tonight, she brings company. They're curious, she murmurs, draped across my lap like worship, her lips ghosting over my collarbone. Jealous maybe, but they won't admit it. I know who she means. The other two. The whip and the whisperer. The ones who took me apart before I even knew what I was becoming. Let them come, I say. Not an order, not a challenge. An invitation. The veil parts before I finish speaking. They emerge, not as enemies, not as predators, but as something hesitant, changed. Their eyes hold a question now. Where once there was only hunger, their steps are slow, reverent. The vines do not steer against them. I don't understand this, says the one with the leather strap, coiling it idly in her hands. Her voice is quieter than I remember. We don't join, we devour. You did, I say, standing to meet her gaze. And look what it made. The golden-eyed one rises behind me, pressing her chest to my back, arms loose around my waist. He's not what we expected, she whispers to them, but we're not what he expected either. The other, the one who always wants like prey wrapped in silk, tilts her head. You love him, she says to her sister. The golden-eyed one doesn't answer. She doesn't have to. They step closer. There's no violence in their movements now, only heat, hesitation, a desire pulled taut like a bowstring. I reach out, take the wet one's hand's fingers into mine. She flinches, but doesn't pull away. Her palm is cold, her breath warm. We were gods in your eyes, she says, untouchable. Then touch me, I say, if you dare. She kisses me first, not cruel, not hungry, searching. Her lips brush mine like a question, and I answer her with my hands, with my mouth, with the thrum of magic already blooming in the space between us. The third joins without a word, sliding up behind the golden-eyed one, tracing the arch of her spine with reverence. 4 bodies, 4 hungers, none of them clean. We collapse into each other like a star being born, burning, messy, brilliant. There is no dominance now. No prey, no game, just want, just wonder, just hands and lips and breath and whispered names that sting like spells. We take turns worshiping. We take turns surrendering. When the moon is high and our limbs are tangled, when every kiss has carved the truth and every touch has made us bleed light, we lie in silence. The forest hums around us, watching. Something has changed, not just in me, but in them as well. In us, a court, not of crowns, but of desire, a knot of thorns and silk and need. I think I love you all, I whispered, dazed. The golden-eyed one laughs, not cruel but joyful, like a sound she hasn't made in centuries. Then you're already ours, she says, and we are yours. There's a space between realms the maps don't show. Too mortar for the Seelie, too soft for the unseelie. A wild tangle of roots in silence where the veil's thin and the rules bend. That's where we made our home. We didn't plan it. It wasn't a decision. It grew, like us. A clearing that never had a center before we touched it. Trees that twisted in closer each time we loved beneath them. Vines that wove overhead to cradle the moonlight like jealous hands shielding a secret. It started with a stone, smooth and cold and ancient, where I first tasted devotion instead of domination. Then came the flowers that only bloomed under our touch. Then the pool that remembered our reflections even when we weren't looking. The others shaped it in different ways. The whip hand carved rooms into the bark and bone, silent prayers to gods even she barely believed in. The whisper voice one taught the moss to sing when we walked barefoot, and the golden-eyed one, she gave it breath. The whole forest seemed to inhale when she spoke, exhale when she slept beside me. I built too, not with tools, with memory, with longing. I laid down every ache, and every night I thought I was alone and wove them into the earth. I whispered my name into the roots, and they carried it. Now the sanctuary knows me, not as prey, not as master, as a part of it. We don't call it court. There are no crowns here, no titles, no thrones. Just a circle of limbs and laughter, a table made of petrified wood where we eat whatever the forest offers. A canopy of shadows that dance when we do. We wake wrapped in each other. We sleep in tangles. We kiss like rituals. We argue in poetry. Once the golden-eyed one caught me watching her as she braided her hair with moon vines. "You missed the war," she said. I shook my head. I missed the silence before I met you, but I would never go back to it. She touched my face, not possessive, not gentle, knowing. "I missed the cruelty," she said, "but this is harder, more dangerous. Love is like a knife with no handle. It cuts no matter which way you hold it, but we hold it anyway, together." Sometimes I catch a glimpse of the old world through the fog. Court dancers made of fire and glass, hunting parties that slip through mirrors. They don't see us. They can't. The sanctuary is alive, and it protects us. We're not hiding. We're rooting, twisting, becoming something they wouldn't dare name. And at night, when all three of them are curled around me, heartbeats staggered, breath sinking, I realize something holy has happened. We've built a place that loves us back. It started with the storm. Not rain, not thunder, but the kind of storm that coils in the air, thick with pressure and promise. The canopy above us swayed as if breathing in time with something older than wind. Magic. Wand. The throb of the land sensing us. We felt it too. The golden-eyed one was the first to move, as always. She slid onto my lap without a word, straddling me where I sat on a moss-warm storm in our clearing. Her lips brushed my neck, then paused, tasting the pulse beneath. "They're watching," she whispered. She didn't mean outsiders. She meant them, the others. The whip hand stood just beyond the ring of stones, eyes sharp and shadowed, her fingers twitching like she didn't know whether to touch or command. And the soft-voiced one, the one who whispered binding words into my spine when I first fell, drifted barefoot towards us, her expression unreadable and her gaze hot. I reached for her. She came without resistance. Soon, we were a tangle of limbs, breath and skin and murmured names, not all of them ours. The magic flared with every moan, every sharp exhale. The forest responded like a lover itself, vines curling inward, petals opening, the very earth warming beneath us. We didn't speak. There were no instructions here, just instinct. The golden-eyed one kissed me with slow biting hunger. Her hips rocked against mine like she was trying to carve me deeper into the world. Behind her, I felt fingers on my back. Another set at my throat and knew the others had joined, not separately, not waiting for permission, but folding into us like heat into breath. 4 bodies no longer separate, one rhythm. The whip hand's nails traced fire down my ribs while her mouth found the golden-eyed one's collarbone, licking the salt of magic off her skin. The soft-voiced one pressed her lips to my temple, then lower, tracing patterns into my skin with tongue and breath that felt like spells. They took me together, and I took them. Hands tangled in my hair, mouth trailing down spines, gas swallowed between teeth. Every touch deepened something between us. Not just pleasure, but pull. Like roots burrowing deeper, like the forest was wrapping us in silk and Thorn is saying yes. The golden eye one whispered it first. Ours. Not a claim, a declaration, a ritual. The others echoed her, low, breathy, and worshipping. Ours. One after the other, lips against my chest, my shoulder, my mouth, then mine. Ours. And the magic snapped, not broken, complete. The vines above us bloomed black petals edged in gold. The moss beneath us shimmered like silver. We didn't stop. We couldn't. Not until every inch of skin had been tasted, every cry answered, every hunger fed. When we finally collapsed, tangled and trembling and slick with sweat and stardust, the clearing pulse was slow, golden light. No words, no need. We knew. Whatever bond we had before, it had thickened now. Not just lust, not just love. Something wilder, fused by sweat and spell, rooted in ruin, blooming in space, where power gives way to pleasure. We were a tangle the word could not unravel, and we didn't want it to. The next morning we found the root. It was coiled beneath the oldest tree in a sanctuary, thick as my arm and dark as dry blood. It pulsed faintly when we touched it, not with pain, not with warming, but with invitation. Dream root, the soft voice one said, kneeling beside it, her fingers brushed the bark with reverence. It only grows where truth has been made sacred. The golden eye one crouched beside her, gaze unreadable. I thought it was Smith. The whip hand didn't speak. She just traced the shape of it, slowly, like drawing a symbol she already knew. I didn't understand it, not until night. We lay together in the moss-ring hollow, breath warm against one another's skin, and as sleep took us, the dream root bloomed, not in the earth, but inside us. And it pulled. We were swept not away but inward, not into dreams, but memories. The first vision wasn't mine. I stood aside the golden eye once past, not as an outsider, but present, feeling the wind, the ache, the crown of thorns she once wore, not as a symbol, but as a sentence. She had once ruled, I learned, a queen of unspoken things. Her court had adored her and feared her in equal measure. But she had been lonely, not for company, but for honesty, for touch without agenda. Her beauty was currency, her cruelty expected. She had never once been kissed without calculation, until me. The dream twisted. Now I stood in a different past. The whip hands. I saw her kneel before a throne, carved from screaming wood, head bowed in shame. A lover stood behind her, not fey, but mortal, bleeding, dead. She had once loved, broken the law to do so. Her punishment was exile and silence. She had not spoken to anyone from the heart in centuries, until us. The next vision was a memory, half whispered, half sung, the soft voice one. A child once, stolen too young. She had been human, or something close to it. Changed slowly by magic and by need. Her memories weren't sharp, but yearning. A lullaby from a mother, whose face she no longer remembered. The scent of snow before she was taken. She had forgotten who she was, until May. And then finally, my own. I didn't try to stop them from saying. I let them feel the night I stumbled through the mushroom ring, drunk and empty and furious at nothing. I let them see the first time someone touched me like I wasn't worth loving, and how I believed them. I let them feel my shame, my want, my ruin, how they all had lit a fire in it all. We woke tangled, tears, sweat, breath, all the same. No one spoke until the golden eyed one, voice raw. I never wanted anyone to know me. The whip hand said, I never thought I could be known, followed by the soft voice one, and now I can't imagine not being seen. I swallowed hard, my voice cracked. I didn't fall into your world. I was falling. You just caught me. We didn't touch that night like lovers. We touched like lifelines, like truth. Hands pressed to hearts, foreheads rested together in the moss, fingers laced not with urgency, but with understanding. The dream root still pulses, but now we know what it guards. Not fantasy, but memory. And in memory, bond. It started pulsing again. Not like before, not warm, not gentle. The dream root throbbed beneath the moss like a heartbeat choking on its own rhythm. The ground around it darkened. The petals curled inward and the air tasted wrong. We touched it anyway. All four of us, hand to bark, breath held. Not because we trusted it, because we belonged to it now. It didn't take us into the past. This time, the root showed us what could be. We stand in a sanctuary not our own. It's like ours, but it's wrong, twisted, overgrown. The vines choke instead of cradle. The flowers we once touched with reverence now drip something black and slick. The trees lean inward like judges, and we, the four of us, are strangers. The golden eye one sits on the throne of bone and bark, beautiful and brittle. Her smile no longer teases, it warns. Her eyes are molten, but empty. Beside her stands the whip hand, her weapon not an extension of love anymore, but control. Her voice cuts, her gaze pierces. She doesn't touch, she commands. The soft voice one glides between them like smoke, wordless, voiceless, her mouth stitched with gold thread. A priestess of silence, her eyes crying things her lips can't say. And me, I'm on my knees, crowned, collared, worshipped and imprisoned in the same breath, loved, but not as a person, as proof, a symbol of their ruin and their triumph. The root shows me, if we keep feeding only lust and longing and power, our love becomes something ravenous, something self-devouring. We become our own myth, and we lose ourselves in it. We rip away, wake gasping. The air around us is cool again, normal, but we are not. No one speaks for a long time. The soft voiced one reaches out first, trembling fingers curling around mine. That wasn't just a nightmare, she whispers. It was a path. The golden eyed one presses a hand to her chest, like she's checking whether her heart is still hers. A warning, she says. The whip hand says nothing. Her jaws clenched, and for the first time, I see fear in her eyes. I speak last. We made something beautiful, but if we forget why, if we forget each other, we'll turn into a cage. She nods. Then we don't forget. From that night on, we changed. We build slower. We speak more. We touch each other not only with want, but with care. We plant flowers from other realms. We write names in stone, not as claims, but reminders. We return to root often, not to see the past, not to ask about the future, but to remember. This love is wild. It grows thorns when left alone, and if we're not careful, we'll crown ourselves kings and queens of ash. The forest shuddered before he appeared. The wind stopped. The shadows shrank. Even the sanctuary, our sanctuary, seemed to tense like a breath held too long. We felt him before we saw him. He didn't knock. He didn't need to. The golden leaves parted with a hiss, and the Seelie prince stepped into our clearing. He wore a mantle of sunthread and frost. His antlers spiraled higher than any other crown, and his gaze, God, that gaze, sliced through the trees like it expected the world to bow. He smelled of pride, of righteousness wrapped in rot, and he looked at the three of them like they were ghosts. You, he said, voice like bells strung with razors. You were my finest. The golden-eyed one didn't rise. She sat beside me, wrapped in a loose sheet, still streaked with moss and sweat from the night before. She met his eyes without flinching. We are still fine, she said, just no longer yours. The whip hand stepped forward, chin high, jaw clenched. You let us play your games. We just stopped pretending they mattered. The soft-voiced one remained still, but the air around her trembled with suppressed magic. The prince's gaze fell on me last. Mortal, changed, marked by their kisses, their magic, their love. His mouth curled, not in anger, but in disgust. You've fallen, he said, as if pronouncing a death. Drunk on flesh and sentiment, you, who once danced on the edge of stars, now rut in dirt with a man who dares call you equals. He turned to them. You've broken every law, abandoned every right. You're not Fae anymore. You're spoiled. I stood, not with defiance, with conviction. They aren't spoiled, I said. They've awakened. You call it falling, but what you fear, what you loathe, is that they found something real and you didn't give it to them. His eyes snapped to mine and the tree shivered. Power coiled in the air like smoke. You think love is power, he hissed. You think this, he gestures to the four of us, tangled in each other's orbit, is anything more than blasphemy. I didn't answer. The golden-eyed one did. She stood now, fully naked under the moonlight, a goddess without shame. Her wings shimmered like dust-given form. Her voice didn't rise. It deepened. You do not get to name what we are anymore. The others joined her, silent, unified, a wall of wings of scars, of choice. He stepped back, just one step, but it was enough. You are forbidden, he spat. This love, this bond, this life. You are exiled, fallen. You will never return. The soft voice one finally spoke, soft as wind, sharp as truth. We have no desire to go back. The prince turned, the forest parting before him like it feared him still, or pitied him. He vanished with a hiss and a glare, not a flash, but the trees took longer to stop shaking. We sat in silence long after, 4 hands, 4 hearts, still trembling, but together. They will come again, the whip hand said. The court never leaves stains on his pride. I nodded. Then let them. The golden-eyed one leaned into me, her breath warm against my throat. They can call us fallen, she whispered. We know what we are. And the dream root pulsed beneath us, not in warning this time, in approval. We didn't speak of the prince again. Not that night, not the morning after, not even when we felt the sanctuary settle like a bruise going cold, a wound scabbed over. The court had cast its judgment, but it was done echoing. Now there was only us, and the question that had never been asked out loud. What were we now? Not a court, not a kingdom, not prey and predator. We sat by the pool at twilight, legs bare, arms brushing, breath soft between sips of wine that tasted faintly of stolen starlight. The whip hand sat with her legs folded beneath her back straight, but eyes vulnerable. Was it ever just rebellion? She asked quietly. The golden eye one stared into the water. At first, maybe, you know us. We break what binds. The soft voice one leaned her head against my shoulder, but we didn't leave the court for Caleb. We stayed because of each other. I swallowed. All of them looked at me now. Not like a leader, not like a symbol. Like a mirror they were no longer afraid to see themselves in. I think we kept reaching for control. I said slowly, because none of us knew how to hold something without owning it or being owned. Silence. Then the golden eye one whispered, but you never tried to own us. You just kept offering your hands, the soft voice one said, even when we bit them. The whip hand exhaled sharply, not quite a laugh. You did break us, you know. I looked at her. No, I said. You broke yourselves open. You let something in. They were quiet again, and then the golden eye one stood, nude, powerful, but softer than I ever seen her, and knelt before me. Not as surrender, as an offering. Her voice didn't tremble. I want this love to be chosen, not reaction, not rebellion, not lust or shame or legacy. Just us as we are, in the quiet. One by one, the others joined her, not ritual, not vow, just four souls circling the same truth. We weren't gods anymore. We were something braver. Mortal in our craving, immortal in our care. I reached out and touched each of their hands, one by one. I don't need to be your center, I whispered. I just want to be one of your constants. The golden eye one smiled. Then we'll build from that. We did not name our bond that night. Not love, not belonging, not forever. Only this. We stayed because we wanted to. And in the morning, we woke the same way, tangled, laughing, whole. The sanctuary warned us. It always did, in its own way. The moss curled tighter. The vines whispered in languages we hadn't taught them. The pool turned to glass, still and watching. Even the dream road stopped pulsing. Then we smelled it. Gold fire and rot. The scent of the Seelie Court's justice. A cleansing. A purge. By the time the first blade pierced the veil, we were ready, but not safe. They came in silence, dozens of them. Faces painted with ash and light, antlers sharpened to blades, wings folded like guillotines. Warriors trained to kill gently, beautifully. Their leader walked in last, the prince. He wore no armor. He didn't need it. He radiated a holy kind of disgust, not rage, not fear, just certainty. You had a chance, he said, voice too calm. I gave you time to burn this place yourself. The golden eye one stepped forward, wings flared. We planted this place in our own ashes. We built it from truth. and you still think truth is wrought. He looked at her like she was a child playing God. I think love has made you small. His eyes flicked to me, and him, monstrous. Then the world broke. The first wave of soldiers moved like smoke on glass, blades of silver flame, incantations that could slice wind. I met the whip vines, with roots I bled into, with everything the sanctuary had become inside me. We didn't fight alone. The whip hand moved like a blade herself, thorns coiling around her arms, striking out with brutal grace. The soft voice once sang, and her voice split the air, each note a binding curse, a spell of sleep or despair. The golden-eyed one, God, she burned. Wings spread wide, fire in her fingers, laughter in her fury. And I didn't bleed. I grew. Where I struck, the trees fought with me. Where I stood, the roots surged up like tave. I felt the dream root at my spine, the moss in my mouth, the forest in my veins. We turned the clearing into a wound that healed as it bled. But they kept coming. One fell, then another, then 5 more. But still, the prince did not move. He just watched. And when the last of his warriors lay broken, vines pulling them into the earth, he smiled. Then he vanished. Not gone, not defeated, just reaching deeper. And that's when I felt him, not in the clearing, but in my mind. I stood in a sanctuary, but around me, everything froze. No bird song, no breeze. The air bent inward, collapsing into silence. And then he was there, not before me, inside me. Do you even know what you are now, Caleb? The prince said, his voice curling behind my thoughts. You think this is love, but it's just power wearing softer clothes. I tried to push him out, but he wasn't attacking. He was showing me. Visions bled through my skull. Me alone, sitting in the clearing while the others watched from a distance, wary, afraid. My hands growing roots, my skin splitting open to bloom. A body, no longer mine. My mouth whispering commands I didn't mean. My levers obeying without question. You've bound him, he said. Not with chains, with need. You think this sanctuary is sacred. It's a temple to your fear of being alone. No, I breathed, trying to shake him loose. This was never about control. Isn't it? He whispered. They loved you, and you fed that love back into the soil. You made it yours. You made them yours. The dream root throbbed at my spine, and for a moment, I didn't know if I agreed with him. The prince kept going. His voice was inside every shadow. You used to ache for touch, for meaning. Now you think you found it. But what you made is a prison that looks like a kiss. No, I said. No, I said again louder, but I was shaking. What if he was right? What if the sanctuary loved me because it couldn't help it? What if they did too? Then a hand touched mine, real, warm. The golden-eyed one, not in my mind. In the now. Her eyes locked onto mine. We chose this, she said. The whip hand and soft voice one appeared beside her, hands joined. And we can choose again, they said together. I closed my eyes, let the warmth anchor me. Let their touch remind me of the difference between worship and trust. And I said to the prince in my head, you mistake devotion for domination because you've never known either. His voice snarled and then shattered. The silence broke. The wind returned. He was gone, but not defeated. Not yet. You've just tasted a drop of the dark. Ready for more? Subscribe to Amorous Sanctum and let the shadows pull you deeper into a world of forbidden fantasy and wicked romance. Have a dark desire you love to see unfold? Whisper it in the comments. We adore your imagination. Until we meet again, don't be afraid to crave.